same like
Right.
SUV
Right.
trunk space,
Right.
but we do have, we're planning on, so we're doing some bucket distribution for you because we don't people like to stage out there. So we'll have
If I sit on this side, is it yours?
we will have a vehicle that we could just put right there and load up with stuff. if we want to.
Okay.
So that should be.
Okay, so I talked to him today. We've got the cake, the 100, the red and blue trim, because the most of the float's white.
Yeah,
We're paid the bill.
I can't wait. I know it's not gonna look any
Yeah,
different, but you know.
So anyways, it's 4 benches, 4 benches. So, okay, so we're just gonna put the bags and, then what,
It's been a pleasure.
well, we'll just have, we'll be having plastic
You
bags.
guys working with.
whatever we can get To put it
So,
on.
it'll be-
So-
If you need any
Honor.
extra bags, we've got
Bless you.
tons, like, how do you need like stuff. So if you need
Recyclable?
anything, yeah, so if you need anything, just let me know, so.
Who,
And I think Miss,
Deal.
because we've got the space, I don't know if Missy sent out an email. or-
Someone gonna pop out.
I don't know.
somewhere, Like,
You
How
know,
long
you,
your
you,
Union, whatever.
You know, yeah.
Applications are,
yeah,
so.
so, but I'm, so who's throwing giving candidates to trustee? Me and you?
Anyone who wants.
Anybody wants to
and stuff
walk.
like that. So we did have, so.
I'm planning on doing a number of things. I'm gonna.
We don't want to have.
Yeah.
It's a weird situation, throw candy for there, otherwise.
I'm gonna
Okay.
learn how to play.
Okay.
I know.
Better.
Yeah.
5-string banjo Scruggs style. Acoustic guitar. And I'm going-
oh, this is weird.
Okay,
How long you been taking it?
More the merrier this year.
And,
So, and I
I
think we should
also
just all
need to
of our
be-
candy.
oh, no,
So
no,
we've got extra candy.
tons.
So we
This is a
should.
three-
So Bruce, we shouldn't run out of candy.
We have plenty of candy.
Assuming people ration correctly. We got
Grandkids
extra
are out in
candy.
Colorado.
Plenty.
They're 2 and 4.
No, I bought extra for Bachfest and, you know, so we've got,
Well, yeah, I think the old.
there will be,
And we did it because my father.
you will not run out. Everybody will be able to toss who wants to.
The buckets are gonna be the wild card, so we're good.
Like 3
Take care. My wife's gonna continue to work school district to hold down there as a nurse for a while, so. And, you know, I made the call you.
I'll be very curious.
You're doing a good job at it.
I'll be very curious to see.
Yeah. That I don't want to do. I've done that. And as a matter of fact, I've got property with my 2 brothers in downtown.
I picked, I mean, they don't pick.
It was not me that was doing it.
I plan on doing
They're right next to each other, so I should just move them.
All right, I have 7 PM, so we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, could I have a roll call, please?
Mayor Plesky,
Here.
trustee Berkshire.
Here.
Trustee Delapenna.
Here.
Trustee Domke.
Here.
Trustee Lanisa.
Here.
Trustee Perkowski
Here.
and trustee Trejo,
Here.
and you have a quorum.
Thank you so much. Do I have a motion to approve the prepared agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Seeing none, that motion carries. We'll now move on to village board public comment. Anyone wishing to provide a comment on a topic or an agenda item may address the village board during the public comment and public hearing segments of the board meeting. Madam Clerk, do we have any submitted in advance?
Yes, I have one. This comment is from prior trustee Diane Eckert. And she starts with, due to a previous commitment, she is unable to attend the meeting tonight, but she wanted to speak on the topic of Jim Knippen. She states, I served on the Roselle Village Board as a trustee for 14 years. During that time, Jim Knippen was our attorney. I want everyone to know how much I appreciated Jim's knowledge and professionalism, his occasional sense of humor, and his patience with me when he would have to explain something in layman's terms in open or executive sessions. More importantly, I trusted Jim's guidance, something that I can't say about all attorneys. Jim, I wish you all the best in your retirement. Enjoy and thank you respectfully and fondly, Diana Eckert.
Thank you, Diana. Oh, better than you thought, huh? I was afraid what was coming.
Do we have any members of the public here tonight that wish to make a comment? The record show none. To keep the Jim Love train going, under my report, we of course, this plaque isn't just for anyone. So we did want to recognize your service to the village, Jim. So we have a proclamation that I'm going to read to you as best as I can, a little memento, and I know we have another thing to present to you as well. But whereas Jim has loyally served as Village of Roselle attorney for over 35 years of dedicated public service to the Village of Roselle, and whereas Jim has been a trusted advisor to 5 mayors, 32 trustees, and 3 village clerks, and whereas Jim has provided sound direction to and collaborated with 4 administrators, numerous department heads on a range of issues that have significantly contributed to the village's vitality and quality of life. And whereas the community has seen significant growth and change over the years, but Jim has maintained a notable record of accomplishment, judicial integrity, character, service, and excellence to all he has served. And whereas Jim's expertise and legal guidance has enabled the village to achieve success in numerous legally complex and challenging situations, and has significantly contributed to the village's development. And whereas Jim's influence and contributions have left a valuable footprint on the village, and his wisdom and legal knowledge has led to some of the village's most important accomplishments. And whereas Jim will be remembered for his deep knowledge of municipal law, his intelligence, his wordsmithing, and his low hourly rate. And whereas the Village of Roselle has benefited far too many other ways from Jim's contributions serving as village attorney, he'll be missed by the village board and staff. So therefore, on this day, I, Mayor David Plesky, and the Board of Trustees do hereby thank Jim Knippen for 35 years of exceptional service to the elected and appointed officials, staff, and the community at large. And we do wish you a very, very well-earned retirement. So Jim. And
Beautiful. I'm going to show this to my wife because she won't believe any of it.
well, and I think we have one more thing, so I'd like to ask the chief to come up. Brace yourself.
Get ready for this.
Just where I get my honorary kids chief badge made up of plastic.
Most people think of Jim Knippen as a corporate lawyer. And I also think of Jim, recognize him and really appreciate you for all the work that you've done in the corporate world. But Jim and I go back many, many years, and in fact, almost every police chief in Northern Illinois, in some way, shape, or form, has called you, has had you represent them, and has had you represent law enforcement and government in many, many, many facets and many cases that we won't go into here. But you and I know several of them that are unique. You also showed me a picture here not too long ago of your house. And I wanted to do something that I thought represented something special from really all law enforcement, but really from us, because we got it for you. What we want to do is we want to present you with just a small token of our appreciation. No logo on the side, but our logo on it, as well as thank you for your ongoing support and commitment to effective, efficient, and ethical law enforcement. Also on here, we put our family coin. So the coin on the side is the police department's coin. That's the coin that we use for all of our family. And on the front of it is actually the lion from the memorial in Washington. So we want you to be part of our family forever. And we thought that this would go well within your home. It's unique.
Thank you very much. It'll go on the fireplace mantle.
Right.
Thank you.
Your wife just put up another public comment in right now. Breaking.
Pick up the milk on the way.
She's on
home.
Zoom right now. She's typing away.
The milk.
I just want to make a quick comment. It's been an honor and a blessing to represent the village for this many years. As I drive home tonight, I'll think about how many years it is, and I'll really realize how old I am at this point. And that's a little bit of a shock because I never thought I'd make it this far. But it's been inspiring to represent Roselle. And the reason for it is all the elected officials in Roselle from the beginning have had a true heart for your community. It's guided your policy determinations. And that says a whole lot about you in particular and municipal government. When we see municipal government, we see what I consider to be the last functioning government in this And it's not in all municipalities. We watch Chicago sometimes and their level of functionality may be slightly diminished compared to small communities like Roselle, but Roselle continues to retain that sense of community and honor for one another. So what I would like to say is thank you for being an inspiration in that regard as an attorney. And I hope that you're able to sustain that policy goal in an era when political division has become the norm in American politics, driven by unnecessary acrimony and unnecessary hatred. And the acrimony and hatred have no purpose when you look at them really. So in any event, keep it up. You've done a great job. All the trustees and mayors that I've worked under have. And it's been an honor, and it's nice to be able to leave a situation with a sense of optimism instead of sense of pessimism. So thanks, really appreciate that. Great working with staff too. You couldn't have a better staff. You know, they've all been consummate professionals over the years, and you recognize that. So thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.
So in typical fashion, we're going to celebrate with some good cupcakes and some desserts. So I'm going to ask for a motion to enter into a 7-minute recess, and we'll reconvene at 7:15. All those in favor, aye? Aye. All right, let's go. Our streaming will continue momentarily, so please be patient at home. We're sorry you're not here to enjoy treats. We'll move on to village trustee reports. Is there any trustee that has a report tonight? All right, seeing none, village clerk.
Oh, yes, keeping in the theme of retirement. I am just letting you know that I will be submitting my retirement notice to the mayor in the near future. And so giving you a heads up to that.
Budget for plaques, David?
I think we get a group discount at this point, but we'll have an opportunity to celebrate all of Patty's wonderful years of service to the village. And I think, one thing, and I appreciate her giving us as much notice as possible so we can make this as smooth as possible transition. Since she's been in office since 2009, if I'm correct. Is that fair to say? So we'll be working to then publish a application online to receive applicants. And then I fully intend with Patty to be holding interviews. We'll include and invite some trustees to be part of those so that way we can have a very robust conversation and make sure we make the right decision to fill that vacancy. So stay tuned for more information on that. And if you have people that are interested, I would say, hey, send them to Patty because there's no one better to learn or ask questions to. And also the application that will be available on our website momentarily. So anything else? All right. Village attorney.
Wordsmithing. Agenda item 13A. First whereas paragraph, change the word jointing to jointly. And in the actual contract itself, first whereas paragraph, strike the phrase help aid in. This is quite a change, and change it to the word retard. And I have nothing further. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Village administrators report.
No report.
All right, treasurer's report, Tom. No pressure. It's been an exciting night. Cupcakes.
All right, so in tonight's packet, I have the April treasurer's report. Again, we're one quarter through the way of the year. The first slide that I have up here, just showing the monthly budget to actual for select revenues. And you can see that most of the revenues, except for the bottom few, are over budget. They're doing better than we expected. Some much better, like sales and income tax, and of course the building permits, which we talked about last time. So I just wanted to give this chart here, just so you can see where we're at on the revenue side. In the second slide, I just wanted to go through the revenue of the month, which is sales tax. Sales tax came in 14% higher than 2021, and that's the first month that reflects, that compares to the level of the Playing Field Act from last January, or well, last year at this time. So sales tax is up 14% over last year. Again, a good sign for the economy, or at least in Roselle, and a good sign for the village. Wanted to point out that Amazon is number 3 in sales tax. I won't give you the dollar amount. I can't provide that, but I was surprised when I saw it. Actually, I think in this month it's number 2. So that's why I wanted to at least point that out, that due to this level of the Playing Field Act, we are now seeing Amazon coming in very, very well for the village. Wanted to point out that in the treasurer's report this month, I added that chart for fire overtime, just so you could see. I had it on a slide last month. I've now incorporated that into the report, just showing the source that where overtime is in actuality, where we think it should be, and then the reduction in our paramedic contract. And then finally, commuter lot daily fees, they continue to climb. However, so far through the year, through 4/30, revenues are under expenditures by $66,000. We mentioned that at budget time. We'll keep an eye on that if we need to address any of the expenditures that are taking place in the commuter lot fund. That's all I have for comments. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions for Tom tonight? All right, seeing none. Thank you so much. We'll now move on to unfinished business. On tonight's consent agenda, all items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine, procedural, informational, self-explanatory, and non-controversial in nature, and will be enacted in one motion. There will be no discussion of these items. Tonight, we have presentation and approval of the village board minutes from May 9th, 2022, approval and holding of the executive session minutes from February 14th, March 14th, March 28th, and April 25th, 2022, and approving and releasing the executive session minutes from April 11th, 2022. Adopt a resolution retaining Johnson, Peterson, and Murray Chicago LLC as special counsel for hearing officer and other duties as assigned. Adopt a resolution approving an assessment for plat for 540 East Irving Park Road. That is all. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call, please?
Trustee Trejo.
Aye.
Trustee Domke.
Aye.
Trustee Bukowski.
Aye.
Trustee Lanisa.
Aye.
Berkshire.
Yes.
And trustee Delapanna.
Aye.
That motion carries. We'll continue on in our first night of new assignments. So community development, trustee Domke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to pass an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance regarding animal grooming as a home occupation.
Second, thank you. Any discussion? I'll just say I appreciate the work everyone put in and a lot of vigorous debate that's happened at all levels on this one. So Madam Clerk, could we have a roll call, please?
Trustee Domke.
Aye.
Trustee Trejo.
Aye.
Trustee Berkshire.
Yes.
Trustee Delapanna.
Aye.
Trustee Bukowski.
Aye.
Trustee Lanisa.
Aye.
That motion carries. Administration, we have nothing for you tonight, Mr. Delapenna. Fire, trustee Lanisa.
Yes, I'd like to adopt a resolution authorizing the mayor to sign and directing the village clerk to attest to an intergovernmental agreement for the reimbursement of expenses related to responses on toll highway authority property between Illinois State Highway Authority and the village of.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Great idea.
Absolutely. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Yes.
Let's pose nay. Any abstentions? Seeing none, that motion carries. Police, we have nothing today for you, Mr. Trejo. Public Works, trustee Berkshire.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a contract of village hall masonry repairs between the village of Roselle and Garland DBS Inc. in the amount of $64,957 through the Masters Intergovernmental Cooperative Purchasing Agreement, MICPA, as amended by the village attorney.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Seeing none, the motion carries. Finance, trustee Prokowski.
Hi, I'd like to move approval of the accounts payable list from May 23rd, 2022 in the amount of $1,475,599.99.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Seeing none, that motion carries. Move on to new business. We do have a second opportunity for public comment. Madam Clerk, did anyone submit public comment in advance?
No other comment.
Any member of the public here tonight that wishes to make a comment? Let the record show none. We'll move on to our first item, presentation of the 2022 to 2025 Village of Roselle Strategic Plan. Brian and Matt.
What you have in front of you tonight is the culmination and final report for the 2022 to 2025 strategic plan for the village. Since November of last year, the board and staff has worked closely with Craig Rapps LLC to facilitate this project and to primarily outline the 5 key priorities for the village, to direct staff and policy direction for the key initiatives that are outlined in the executive summary. The 5 priorities are financial stewardship, focused redevelopment, reliable infrastructure, operational sustainability, and customer experience. So through the work of the board, primarily the sessions that Craig Rapp facilitated back in February, and then also working with staff to come up with the key initiatives that would direct the actual work conducted to achieve those priorities and how to measure them appropriately. This is the final report prepared for you. If there's any questions, I can take them now. I would like to say, in addition, the board approved the purchase of the Invisio software to track and report the progress of this plan, primarily due to increasing the accountability factors involved in the work to establish and complete the priorities. So we'll have a report for the board after the 90-day implementation that's set to be completed by the end of July. We're looking at the first report to be in September, but along the way, we'll be providing updates just on the implementation of the software and kind of providing some glimpses into what it can do and how staff will utilize it.
Great. Any comments, questions from the board? Trustee Domke?
David, and Brian, as we go through the year, and are you gonna like relate items that come before us to this document so that we can see we're making progress? And, you know, will you like have will it be in yellow, or will you say this conforms to so-and-so on the strategic plan?
Yep, it's funny you mentioned that because today in our staff meeting, we were talking about primarily changes to the agenda item packet that we could make that would highlight certain agenda items that come before you for adoption and the procurement of certain funds that would kind of tie back to each priority and show you where they line up. And in addition, the reporting of the software too it's basically the work of staff that's going to be able to input this data, both quantitative and qualitative, for you to review on a frequency that we will decide in a future date.
Reports like this can go in a drawer somewhere and not looked at again, but we're gonna be on top of it, right?
That's right.
Yep, and I would just add to that, we're planning on highlighting in future Roselle Minute episodes, things that tie to our strategic plan. And then I envision we will bring back town hall meetings again at some point. It didn't make sense given where we were at the point last year, but those meetings I see structured around our strategic plan instead of just being broad general updates. It will be focused on making sure we're highlighting the progress we've made here.
Yeah, super.
Other questions or comments from the board? I'll just say I only have one baseline of strategic plans prior to this, but it's really refreshing and I'm really happy to see that we have real numbers plugged in here. I know a number of times we've left these blank to kind of allow us some flexibility to see what's going on and to make sure that we're making the right decisions. But I think that really speaks to staff's commitment to this plan, as well as working with the consultants and leveraging them fully. So we actually have a fully envisioned plan, I feel. Not that we haven't had in the past, but there's a lot of metrics to be determined, and it's nice to see no TBDs, no blanks. We've got real numbers to look at, so I appreciate the effort on that. And I think it's visually also easy to follow and read, so I appreciate the effort that you guys all put into it, so thank you. All right, see it on the next agenda then. Next, we have a intergovernmental agreement for Founder's Day with the Roselle Park District, so Jason.
I've been working with the executive or with the director of the Park District on an intergovernmental agreement around kind of the roles and responsibilities of both the Park District and the village related to Founder's Day, which will be held on October 8th. It's kind of initiative of the Park District since it's being hosted on their property. They want to kind of make sure things are clearly outlined in an agreement. As I've outlined in my memo, it's really a collaboration between the Park District and the village. They've been willing and gracious enough to really handle all the hosting, the scheduling of vendors, other event participants, as that's kind of in their wheelhouse since it's quasi recreational, the event. And then the village is really providing more of the heavier resources, the public safety, the road closures, kind of the overall responsibility, higher level for the event. And then there'll be some shared response. And then really the financial piece of it is certainly the village's number one commitment to it is paying for all of it, albeit that the Park District is contributing towards it as well. And then just kind of outlining that the Park District is protected from anything that happens at the fireworks. I know that was a little concern of theirs and their risk management agency since it's being hosted at Lake Park, making it clear that they have, they're not party to that. And then both entities are responsible for cleanup afterwards. So just kind of your typical pillars, I guess, of a intergovernmental agreement. But before bringing the whole thing before you, I just want to make sure that you're in agreement that it's valuable for us to enter into one and that there's nothing that raises concern based on kind of the high level components of the IGA that I've outlined in my memo.
Any questions or direction from the board?
Yeah, makes sense to me.
Is it Melrose Pyrotechnics?
So the fireworks vendor has not been selected.
Okay.
I'm gonna try to get two proposals, and based on the dollar value, we'll have to have probably village board approval. So I'm still working through that.
It's been included in the centennial budget that we approved from an internal perspective, but we're just trying to make sure we shop around, given the climate right now, just to make sure that we're not getting swindled, for lack of better words. So, and I think the one thing I will just add is I really appreciate the Park District spearheading also seeking sponsorships. So I think this has been a really good collaboration where we've been able to kind of guarantee initial funds and they've been able to whittle away the reliance of our funds on this. So that's been really great because that's something I think, you know, that's not necessarily our muscle that we use very often. And I think they really have a natural place in that. So I think this is just a further of our collaboration we've had over the last couple of years with the Park District. So
Yeah.
direction to move forward.
Yep, this should be at the next board meeting for board approval. Is I think the Park District meets a night or two after that. And they'll approve it then as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Next, we have the yard flooding assistance program modification. So Kristen.
So in 2016 is when the board first approved the yard flooding assistance program. And since that time, there have been no revisions to the program. The program was designed to help property owners address significant drainage issues that occur on both their property and another. So it has to address two single-family homes. The program reimburses owners for 50% of the cost of the improvements with a maximum reimbursement of $3,000. Property owners that we meet with frequently say that the improvements are going to exceed $6,000 in cost. And so therefore the reimbursement that they actually get will be less than 50%. This is especially true if a long yard drain is required to serve 2, 3, 4 properties like we sometimes get requests for. We reviewed the programs in several area communities and some of them have a cap as high as 5,000. Based on the rising cost for construction, staff is recommending that we increase the maximum reimbursement for the program to 5,000, but maintain the maximum percentage of reimbursement to 50%. In addition, the 2022 budget for the program is 10,000 based on low participation in previous years. At this point in time, we've received 12 projects that are eligible for the program due to the significant rains that we've had this spring, sorry. So we would recommend that we would increase the funding for the program for $30,000 this year, as it was in the previous year and at the inception of the program.
Any questions or comments from the board?
I'd be okay with that. I do have a question though.
Go for it.
It's always been my wonder why we don't let this money accumulate. When you have a good year, you don't use it, but it accumulates so that when you do have a bad year, you've already got the money. And I know it's, you have like zero balance accounting on this particular account. Why is that? Do we ever want to maybe let it stay and roll out?
Yeah, I mean, to me, that's probably a policy decision of board, but just how we typically do our budget, we don't roll over money from one year to another to add on it. We really just look at it as what do we think the future needs will be for that program. And given the past participation, we kind of played with how that money appears in the budget, both the dollar amount. Previous years, we kind of rolled it into a larger number that if it wasn't spent through this program, then the village spent it on other program, other projects that improve stormwater. But just really from a budgeting standpoint, we don't carry over kind of unspent funds. We just budget what we feel is appropriate for the fiscal year. But it's certainly something the board could just tell us to continue to keep it at a certain level regardless of, participation.
And I think, Wayne, the spirit of what you're asking, I think staff has come to us because they think that there's inadequate funding. So I would rely on staff to say.
Oh, it works the way it is. I'm just saying that flooding has been one of the biggest bugaboos since I've been on the board. And, whatever you could do to make it right, which you're trying to do right now, which I appreciate. So, I mean, I just suggest that maybe we should think about that one day again, but okay. I just wanted to know.
Tom.
Question. I'm completely for these changes. I do have one question though. If we already have 12 people that are possibly going to apply for this and we boost it to 5,000, is 30,000 enough? Should we make that more?
We can't assume that all of them are going to be at that $5,000. There's a couple of, there's two that are actually in the process of submitting permits, and they're right around that $2,000 to $3,000 reimbursement. So they won't go up to that 5,000 cap. So there's that piece. And then we frequently see projects that are approved as eligible, but never proceed with the getting contractors on board and submitting permit applications. So likely of those 12 that have submitted, we won't get the program followed
So
through.
you're comfortable with the 30?
We are.
Okay.
Well, that doesn't mean that we can't do it again in the fall too, right?
Yeah, we can come back if we feel the need to based on
Okay, thank you.
moving forward.
What do you think is driving the increases? Have we marketed it in a vastly different way, or is there just, it's been a wet spring and that's generating more responses from people?
It's been a wet spring. We saw in 2020 when we didn't have the program, there were several people that expressed interest in it then. I think it's a lot of people didn't necessarily have a wet spring last summer or last year, so they didn't necessarily notice issues, but also we have upped the advertising on it as well, which I think has brought in more people, which is a good thing.
All right, Lee?
Just a question, when you get a project in, do you like cross-reference it against like other stormwater projects that we might have in the pipeline that might alleviate so you could basically say, hey, you probably don't need this, we're gonna address it in like a year or two?
Yeah, most of the issues though are rear yard flooding. So they're really, typically it's an issue that they need to address on their own property. We do look at some of the bigger studies that we have and say, you know, this is something that could be addressed through this, but most of the time they're not anything that would really affect.
Got it, thank you.
Any other questions? Sounds like the board is in alignment for moving forward with it, with the proposal. One thing I would just throw out there, and I'd be curious, I know we've always had the requirement that it requires at least 2 properties impacted to participate. I have always thought that somewhat self-selects out a lot of things, and I wonder if there's any tiering we would like to consider maybe in the future where maybe we bring back that 3,000 level for an individual property, but if you're doing a bigger project that involves multiple properties, maybe we reimburse to a larger amount. Didn't know what the board's feelings were on that. Lee?
I mean, I'm fine with making that change now, to be honest.
Okay.
No, we did that 5 or 6 years ago. We had to have about 6 families. that had to
Well,
come together.
right. Well, but I think that's the thing is like, if you're requiring multiple property owners to agree to something, I think there's a lot of properties that have flooding issues on their own. Or if you have a neighbor that's unwilling to participate, but you're willing to spend the money yourself, that ends up becoming a barrier sometimes for completion or dispersal of funds. And I don't know why we would want to discourage. In that case, I know we have a lot of applicants, so it seems a little bit counterintuitive, but that's just something that I wanted to float out there. Bruce?
I'd like to give it a little more thought, and I'd like Public Works to go and look at it, because I did actually look at it in mind. And what they were basically going to do is build a big giant hole and put a tub in the bottom of it and make a French drain, which then would have to require a pump to pump it to the front of the property. So that was all their solution was going to be. And so I was going to spend a lot of money to basically run a pipe to the sewer to pump it from my backyard to that. So I think we got to look into that individual thing. Unlike when we started to do this, it was intended for running a drain, because in my case, the sewer is 4 houses down. The whole backyards have grown. They had intended to have a swell. That is long gone. And so that's why they're putting, basically what they're doing is they're putting a 4 to 6 inch drain, permeated drain all the way through down to the main line so that it drains that way. So I'd be cautious with individuals, and I'd like for Public Works to do a little bit more investigation on what kind of solutions we might have come across.
Yeah, that's absolutely fair. I mean, I think I wouldn't want to change parameters mid-application cycle. I think that wouldn't be fair to residents who might have fallen in that situation, purely thinking maybe that's something that the Public Works chair could work with Public Works on to evaluate,
Yes,
maybe for
exactly.
2023 to see if we want to make any modifications program, especially as we prepare the budget for next year soon. Just thinking proactively, are there bigger changes we maybe want to consider to the program overall? So, which it sounds like I got a lot of nods, so that's something worth looking at for maybe this fall. So,
Schedule some time, Kristen. We'll be fine.
Okay, sounds good.
all right, you got your direction then.
All right, thank you.
All right. That ends our new business. We don't have any executive session tonight. Is there any other business from the group? I guess Rose Parade updates in general.
I think we sent out the parade lineup. Should be there about 1:30 and we have a float. We have the candy. The candy will be bagged on the float for walkers and your shirt or your Roselle shirt or your tennis shoes and
Yeah,
your smile
get sunscreen too.
and some.
You don't want to get burned. So, and I know if you're there earlier, we'll be doing some pre-bucket distribution just to help alleviate any bottlenecks. So if anyone's feeling extra ambitious and wants to walk a little bit early to help get the buckets up to the kids that are pre-lining the streets, feel free to join us a little bit earlier as well. So I'll also be sending out an email just to gauge. I know we're going into the summer months, so that's when a lot of things kind of schedules start to overlap or whatnot. So there are some times in the past where we've reduced our meeting schedule in the summer to once a month if there was no pressing issues that need to be done and we had attendance issues. So if there's any vacations or conflicts that you know are coming up, just let me know so we can plan appropriately is all I would ask. So other than that, I'll ask one more time. Any other business from the board? All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Yes.
Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? We're adjourned at 7:40.